Hello everybody, it's Jennifer Hoagland here with Gooseberry Gardens, and today we are going to talk about saving seeds from our tomatoes. All right, so there's a couple reasons for saving seeds in the first place. The first is because it can be quite a bit cheaper, right? By saving your own seeds, you're not having to purchase seeds and therefore you're saving money. So obviously a good thing, right? But the second reason we save seeds is so that we can continue to propagate the best of the best from each year, all right? So we're saving seeds only from the tomatoes that have done really well, from individual tomatoes that don't have any cap facing, didn't crack, stood up to drought really well, okay? And if we continue to propagate the best of the best, we'll end up in a few years with tomatoes that do extraordinarily well in our specific environment. So really good reason to save seeds. When we're choosing which tomato seeds to save, we need to think about a couple things. First of all, we only should be saving seeds from open pollinated or heirloom tomatoes, okay? All heirlooms are open pollinated, but sometimes if you look in the catalogs, they don't specify open pollinated, but know that all the heirloom seeds are open pollinated, okay? We save those ones because we know that the seeds that we plant and the tomatoes that are a result of those seeds are going to be exactly the same as their parent plant, okay? So if we plant prudent purple tomato seed, we know that we will get prudent purple tomatoes next year, okay? What we don't want to try saving is hybrids. So they will be listed in your catalogs as either a hybrid or F1 or F2, okay? Those guys will not be true to seed. So if we were to plant those seeds next year, the tomatoes that we get that would result would be completely unknown. They might be like the parent plant, they might not, they might be something totally different, they may be inedible, we don't know. So if you want to choose seeds for specific varieties, which most of us do, make sure that they are either heirloom or open pollinated seeds, okay? So really easy to save seeds from tomatoes. We're gonna take a prudent purple. I also have here black crim, and this little funny guy, which is called Brad's Atomic Grape. We're going to be saving seeds from all three of those for next year. So all you need is a mason jar. We're going to take a very nice, very ripe tomato. Okay, make sure it's good, no damage to it. Okay, we're going to cut it in half horizontally, okay, across the equator. And we have beautiful seeds in here. Now tomato seeds are covered with a little coating or pulp around the outside of each individual seed. So what we are going to do to separate the seeds from that pulp is we're going to allow it to ferment, actually. So I'm going to use a spoon, take our seeds, and just get in there. Okay, get all those seeds into your jar. You want to do at least 4 or 5 tomatoes for each variety that you're saving. Okay, do the bottom part. I'm just going to show you with one here. Okay, don't worry if you get lots of juice in there. That's all good. Make sure that you still use these tomatoes. These are still edible, still yummy. Okay, once we've got 4 or 5 tomatoes in there or more, you can absolutely do this on a large scale as well. We're going to add some water and fill up our container about half full. Okay, then we're going to loosely put a lid on here and we're going to set it on our kitchen countertop and we're going to leave it for 4 or 5 days. And that will allow it to fully ferment. When it ferments, the pulp from around the seed is going to loosen up. Okay, the seed is going to fall to the bottom of our jar and that pulp is going to float on the top. And that's how we're going to tell that it's done. Fair warning, this is fermentation, so it's going to get a little funky smelling. Make sure you tell everyone in your household what you're doing and not to throw it out, or they may think you're doing some strange science experiments that need to be tossed. So just let everybody know so these don't end up in the garbage. Okay? After 4 or 5 days, we will take a look at these and I'll show you what it looks like and what we need to do next. All right, we're back. It's been about 5 days since we put our tomato seeds with water in our jars to ferment. And they have definitely been fermenting, you can tell, because they have a little bit of a vinegar scent happening there. Okay, that's a good sign that fermentation's happening. Okay, and our seeds have separated down to the bottom of our jar. So we know this is ready to go. Now, I mentioned last time one really good reason for fermenting our tomato seeds before we save them, and that was to separate that pulpy exterior that's around the outside of the seed away from the seed. Okay, tomato seeds have a pulp around them, and by fermenting them, that pulp is easily removed. Okay, it makes it much easier to save seeds. There's a couple other reasons. The second reason we use fermentation for tomato seeds is that it prevents any transmission of tomato diseases. Okay, things like late blight. Okay, very, very much reduced from generation to generation if we ferment our seeds first. Okay, the third reason that we want to ferment our tomato seeds before we save them is because it helps to get rid of some of the germination inhibitors that are on the outside of the seeds. Okay, a lot of seeds have, it's like a little bit of a chemical on the outside that prevents germination from happening too early. Okay, and fermentation gets rid of that for us. And it can actually increase the germination of our tomato seeds in the spring here by up to 5 days sometimes. So definitely worth doing. All right, so moving on, we're on the next step of our fermentation. Okay, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna pour off the top liquid on here. Okay. Try not to pour off any of the seeds. We'll get some pulp coming out here. If you do get a couple seeds, that's okay. Oftentimes those are seeds that are not viable anyway. Then we're gonna add some water in here. Okay, give it a little bit of a swirl. And we're gonna give it a couple seconds for our tomato seeds to settle back down at the bottom. And then we're gonna pour our pulp off again. Some good pulp chunks in there. Okay, and we're gonna keep repeating that until we have just our seeds left. Okay, it usually takes 3 to 4 times for me, depending how clean your seeds were when you put them in the jar to begin with. It may take less time. All right, so I've rinsed this 4 or 5 times. Does help to give it a little stir with a fork in here and just to get it all kind of mixed up and separated a little bit. Okay, and I've poured off most of my pulp out of here. Next thing we need to do is get a fine mesh strainer. I use the one that I use for dusting flour or for baking. I just wash it really well afterwards, of course. Definitely need something small enough that your tomato seeds won't go through, right? Okay, and then I'm just gonna pour it straight into my strainer here. And we're just gonna give it a good rinse with cool water. Okay. Let that dry off as much as you can here. Use our fork a little bit. Okay, and then you can use like a regular dinner plate. You can use a paper plate. I like to use paper plates so I can compost them afterwards. You can also use paper towel. Paper towel, depending on the brand and how much recycled material in it though, sometimes the seeds will stick. So I like to use paper plate here. Okay, make sure you label the plate, black rim on here so you know what you're saving. Okay, get all our seeds in there. Okay, and then we're just gonna make sure that we spread these out on our plate so none are on top of each other. All All right. Once we get them all nicely spread out, we're gonna let these dry. They actually dry pretty quickly, usually a day or two. Put them in a nice protected area, not in the sunlight. We don't want these to germinate, right? So make sure they're in kind of a dark, cool place. Okay, that's not too bad there. Once they are 100% completely dry, we're going to put them in either an envelope or a glass container, wherever you like to save your seeds for next year, and they're ready to go. And that is about it for saving tomato seeds. Don't forget to label, really important. Okay, so I hope you learned something new today. I hope I inspired you to try saving your tomato seeds. Very economical, great way to grow even better tomatoes year after year after year. And if you have any more questions or any comments, you can always go to our website at www.gooseberrygardens.ca. And we'll see you next time. Yummy gardening, everyone.